pride parades should be banned.
As a gay Republican, I gotta say, a lot of these more far-right Republicans think that just because Trump won, that means the country's on board with what they believe. No, Trump ran on a moderate platform. He didn't win because of Republicans like you, he won because of Republicans like me, moderates, who believe in liberty, live and let live, small government. Whereas you clearly don't believe in liberty or small government because you want to use government force to force everybody to live in accordance with your religious beliefs. That is a losing strategy. People don't like to be controlled. That's why so many people left the left, because the left became authoritarian and controlling. And that authoritarian strategy is not going to win on the right. If you don't like pride parades, just don't go to them. You don't have to go to them. Don't ban things that other people do just because you don't like them. And by the way, this is not an endorsement of everything that happens at pride parades. Public indecency laws exist for a reason. But people have a First Amendment constitutional right to have pride parades, just as you have a constitutional right to disagree with them on religious grounds. You do not, however, have a right to ban people from having pride parades just because you don't like them.
So there you saw that video from a creator called Evan. I thought this would be a good video to react to because I had a strong reaction to it. The first thing I want to say is I've seen some other stuff from this creator. I've liked everything I've seen, and I am very glad that we are the big tent right now. I am very glad that President Trump is back in office. I think that's the most important thing in the short term, in the immediate, because I do think we were on the brink of losing everything. And I'm also glad that we can hash these things out. I think that Evan's video, this reaction to it, is indicative of something I talk about frequently, which is that MAGA and conservatism overlap frequently, but not always. And really, we are the big tent. We are the unity party, right? President Trump made inroads with a lot of people, and it's diehard Trump supporters, and it's reluctant Trump supporters, and it's traditionalists and conservatives and Republicans, and that means all sorts of different things to different people. And really, I guess the main thing that unites us is America first and patriotism and a distaste for the modern day Democrat Party. But beyond that, we've got a lot of different points of view, and what conservatism means today is not what conservatism was in yesteryear. As someone who I guess would be categorized as a far-right Republican a la Michael Knowles, although I do not go around calling myself that, I do have some issues that I want to push back on. Number one, I can't speak for Michael Knowles, but I do not believe that he thinks that just because President Trump is back in the White House, that suddenly his point of view, Michael's point of view as a Catholic traditionalist, is suddenly the mainstream in 2025 America. Michael seems like a guy with a good head on his shoulders. I think he knows where we're at right now. I mean, for his part, he just walked into a room surrounded by 25 LGBT infinity activists, which is where this clip that Evan is responding to came from. So again, I think he knows what we're up against, and most Americans who aren't completely captured by Democrat talking points in the legacy media, most Americans understand that President Trump is not that conservative, that he's not that traditional, that in fact he's more of an old school Democrat. Certainly Michael Knowles is more conservative, and yet he supported Donald Trump. I am more conservative. I supported Donald Trump. And that doesn't mean that suddenly I believe that my more conservative viewpoints that are even more conservative than Donald Trump, that suddenly those represent the majority of Americans, because that doesn't really make any sense. The second thing I would say is that, sure, Republicans like Evan, gay Republicans, if that's what you want to call them, or libertarian-leaning Republicans is maybe another word. They've certainly helped put Trump back in the White House, but also Republicans like me helped put Trump in the White House. So did Republicans like Michael Knowles. So did Americans who don't identify with the Republican Party at all and kind of just reluctantly voted for Donald Trump because they didn't like the other option. That's the thing, is we are the big tent right now. We are the unity party, and there are a whole host of diverse opinions and viewpoints within Trump supporters or people who voted for Donald Trump, and we all helped put Donald Trump back in the White House. So I really don't see the point in saying I did, but you didn't. And, you know, in America, we try to avoid majority rule. I'm not saying that my conservative viewpoints represent the majority, but we also try to avoid majority mob rule because we do want the minority represented as well. We don't want their rights infringed upon, or anyone's rights infringed upon, which is what we're going to get to in a moment. The third thing I would say is that I think live and let live is a very libertarian ideal as opposed to a conservative one. It sounds very nice. It's such a nice thing to say, and I love liberty just as much as the next red-blooded American. However, live and let live has natural endpoints in a civilized society because we simply cannot tolerate everything. It cannot be a free-for-all. The things that we do or don't do affect each other, and we have to legislate certain things, especially big issues. And the government is here to protect my rights just as much as it is here to protect your rights. So yes, while you do have the right to free speech, and that is a very important right, and I don't want to infringe upon it, and obviously pride parades are frequently covered under the right of free speech, I also have the right to not be subjected to lewd acts in public, obscene acts in public, sexual acts in public. And the example that comes to mind first and foremost, but it's certainly not the only example, unfortunately, is San Francisco Pride last year in 2024 when Taylor Hanson blew the whistle on the fact that there were grown men at San Francisco Pride who were performing oral acts on each other, trying to not get dinged by YouTube here. They were performing oral acts in a kiddie pool filled with urine. And according to California law, that is illegal. You cannot get off in public according to California law. However, when asked about it, the police officers nearby that day, they said that they were choosing their battles.
I talked to some of your colleagues yesterday about like the public nudeness and stuff and the naked stuff going on in front of kids. They said it was legal as long as there isn't, I think they said sexual gratification or a lewd act going on. But literally like right across the fence, you have a zone where people are giving each other blowjobs in public and pissing on each other in public. Is that legal? Like any enforcement going on there, or is it just
inside that event?
Inside that event, yeah.
Right, so they might have different parameters inside the event.
How would that work? Different parameters?
So technically it's not a public event, right? You have to cross into it, and it's a good event. It's just in public streets.
So that's what like makes it not illegal, essentially.
I mean, we don't make the rules.
So
Pick your battle day, and they
Yeah.
want us maintaining civility on the outskirts of it, and so that's
yeah, that's what one of the other cops had spoken about was like, if it's not violence, we're not getting involved.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, if nothing violent, it's just
Yeah.
kind of pick your battle. And
Exactly.
so I just talked to multiple cops on and off camera. Off camera, they told me, yeah, we're not enforcing anything. They know exactly what's going on, and it doesn't matter because it's not violent. So they're full aware of what we just documented: the blowjobs, the peeing in the mouth, the sexual gratification in public. And then the cops that you see on camera, they pretty much said the same thing, but not as straightforward. They said, he literally said, we kind of are picking our own battles today. So they said it's a private event. It's still illegal what they're doing, but since it's a private event, they have been instructed to stay out.
I would argue that yes, while every American citizen has the right to his free speech, has the right to peacefully protest or to have parades, I also have the right to have laws enforced and to not be subjected to sexual acts on the sidewalk. I also am a tax-paying citizen. And again, I understand that this is not every pride parade. This is not the only thing that happens at pride parades. This is not every single member of the LGBTQ community. However, it is a pattern with pride parades. And I think that's why we're having this discussion at all. I think that's why Michael Knowles is saying what he said in the first place. And I saw Evan in the comments of his video saying, well, this is a parent issue. Parents have kind of an obligation, a responsibility to keep their kids away from pride if they don't want them exposed to this. But I would push back on that a bit because we have laws in our society that protect the most vulnerable, aka children, minors. For instance, it is obviously illegal for children to partake in alcohol or drugs or to go into an adult bookstore. And we don't simply say, okay, so parents, keep them away from alcohol and drugs and keep them away from adult bookstores. Or it's illegal for children to view adult movies, right? Even though it's all over the place, and it's on X, and it's free, and it pops up everywhere. So historically, we don't do a very good job of protecting kids online, but we do a very good job of protecting them offline, and yet we don't seem to want to protect them from pride parades, right? We don't just say to the parents, hey, keep them away from drugs and alcohol and adult content. We actually have laws around clerks carding people. We have laws around bouncers not letting you in if you don't have an ID and you look like you're under a certain age. We have laws, and we don't just leave it up to the parents to keep children away from these things. I would argue that those laws should possibly extend to pride parades if they're going to be extremely lewd and disgusting, and I would argue, again, half the time illegal as it is. I would argue that we should have laws to protect children. It shouldn't just be left up to the parents, because we all protect children in this society. We have laws to protect children. And it's kind of a very progressive, weak-kneed argument to say if you don't like pride parades, then don't go. You know, that's what the progressives say. They say, hey, if you don't like abortion, don't have one. But obviously, that's not all she wrote. Obviously, that doesn't help. That doesn't solve the issue. We do have to legislate on these big issues because, again, it cannot just be a free-for-all. It can't just be whatever you feel like doing. You know, the progressives love to say, hey, if you don't like drag queen story hour, well, then don't take your kid to one. But again, we don't just leave everything up to everyone. We legislate. You know, we wouldn't be okay with saying, hey, if you don't like a slave, well, then don't own one. Now, I'm sure the Democrats were saying that back in the day. They've been using the same argument probably for hundreds of years. But we wouldn't be okay with that because we do have to legislate, and we try to get as close to objective morality and objective truth as possible. And I know that's very triggering for the progressives. Very, very triggering. And we try to protect everyone's rights, and we try to protect the most vulnerable. So kind of a cop-out to say, hey, if you don't like this thing, well, then don't participate or don't own it. That's just, it's not helpful. That's not how we really live. We have laws. The next thing I would say is that yes, he is right that a lot of people left the Democrat Party because we saw them become authoritarian, even as they accuse us of being authoritarian. However, that's not the only reason they left, and I'm sure that Evan would agree with this. There are at least two other main reasons why people left the Democrat Party. And I would say that is, one, that we watch them become completely detached from reality, and two, we watched them go after children. Put kids in harm's way, not protect children. I'm sure you have seen just as many school board meeting videos as I have where the parents are outraged at porn in public school libraries or drag queen story hours or transing kids or whatever else. So that's part of what Loudoun County election ended up being the way that it was. I mean, I do think we can't discount the fact that recently past elections have been kind of a referendum on LGBT, very much the T issues. And it's not just about live and let live. And it's not just about the Democrats are too authoritarian, so I'm going to go elsewhere. It's about you are not protecting children. You are not protecting the most vulnerable. And sometimes it even seems like you are going after minors. And so I don't think that we can discount that completely and just say, hey, we're over here because we don't want to be authoritarian. That doesn't really explain everything that has happened and everything that is currently happening. And I will offer this, that when gay activists fought for the ability to marry around 10 years ago, and when they fight for things in the present day, it is almost always framed as, give us the same rights, give us the same treatment as straight people. Let us mind our business, and you mind yours. Let us do what we want to do in our bedroom, and we'll keep it in our bedroom. Well, now it's in the streets of San Francisco. In fact, now it's in the streets of every single major city across America. It's no longer in your bedroom. You are literally doing it in the streets. And I don't think it's a good look for the LGBT community. I particularly don't think it's a good look for the L, the G, and the B community, who frequently recently try to separate themselves from the T community. But when you are out here partaking in these pride parades, even if you yourself are not doing the sexual act, but you're just letting it happen, it's not a good look. Because it tells everyone that it's not just about you having the same rights as straight people, because usually straight people aren't doing sexual acts in the street, and if they are caught, they usually get prosecuted. And we don't have a parade where straight people just have straight sex and everybody is subjected to it. So you're kind of messing with your own wins here. You're taking yourself 1,000 steps back, because we're seeing this more and more and more and more at pride parades. And I think that people are sick of it. And I don't think they have to be Catholic traditionalists like Michael Knowles to be sick of it. So if indeed you are upset when you see someone like Michael Knowles saying that we should ban pride parades, I can see why you would be upset as an LGBT community member. I can see why that would, get you emotional. But I would offer that the first people you should be upset at are not Michael Knowles or Matt Walsh or whoever it is that you think is far right. It should be the LGBT community, who is the people who have propped this up and allowed it to get this out of hand. You should be most upset at your own community and be upset at your own community first. Get your own house in order before you start calling other people bigots or hateful. Not that that's what Evan said, but before you start suggesting that people are bigoted or hateful or homophobic, get your own house in order. Because regular Americans who aren't Catholic, who aren't traditionalists, who aren't conservatives, they don't want to see this. And in fact, I think this is somewhat tied to the fact that last year, for the first time since 2015, we saw American support for gay marriage and gay rights fall for the first time. And I'm not suggesting that it was a huge plummet. It is still the majority opinion in America that gays should be able to be married, and that's still the popular position. But again, this is the first time that we saw support for those things fall. So is that a canary in a coal mine? Is this a sign that people are sick of this? They are sick of an entire month, more than a month at this point, of Pride. When it is Pride Month, it is everywhere. It is in every major chain. It is pushed on kids. We saw that gross commercial. What was it for? It was for Postmates or Uber Eats, where it was about a bottom menu and what you should eat when you're, receiving something from another man. I mean, just the most outrageous things. It's been pushed everywhere, and it's in our schools, and it's around our kids, and it's on our sidewalks. And I think you don't have to be Michael Knowles. You don't have to be a conservative. You don't have to be a Catholic or a traditionalist to not like that. And so, again, I'm just warning the LGBT community, are you going to lose more and more support if you continue down this road? I would police your own community first before I get upset at other far-right Republicans for saying things you don't like. That's just my 2 cents. The last thing that I want to share is a clip from this same debate that Evan took a clip from. And I watched this debate before I even saw Evan's video. I had me riveted. I love to watch Michael Knowles debate. As I've said in a previous video, I actually made a video on this debate, and you can find that. I will link it below. But this woman, this young woman, struck me. She was the only one in all 25 people in the room, the only one who approached Michael Knowles with respect, with good faith. They actually found common ground, and perhaps Evan or someone watching this would be surprised at the fact that Michael Knowles found common ground with this ostensibly gay woman over the fact of whether we should ban pride parades. And I just want to offer it to people because I loved this clip. I loved this young woman. I wish she would have been able to sit in the chair for longer because we need more discussion like this. So enjoy, and I will see you in the next video.
All
right, great to speak with you.
The pleasure's all mine.
All right, so pride parades should be banned. That's your claim, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I can meet some middle ground with you. Sorry, guys. I think pride has kind of became a bad representation of what our community is.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not all just like sex toys and leather.
Yeah, right.
Unfortunately. Which is why I think, most conservatives kind of are completely on the other side. It's like the pendulum swing, is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, so like one side of the coin is pretty much that, LGBT, we have fought so hard for our rights, we kind of leaned so far one way. Whereas like now, we've kind of accepted too much, right? As far as like, we're so open-minded that...
our brains fell out.
You could say that,
yeah.
In some aspect. However, it doesn't take away the fact that, there's still gay people that exist. I don't think pride parades should be banned. However, I think we should portray a different a different image of it.
Yeah,
Because-
yeah, I think you're quite right. You know, for all of history and everywhere in the world, there have been people who are a little odd, you know, or they have desires that are not the mainstream. And so I get it. I'm not saying we need to like totally deny that or, you know, toss people out of society or anything. It's just, I said we should eradicate the transgender ideology. Yeah, which is a false account of human nature. But yeah, I think you can. If you can separate the war on poverty from, you know, a war on poor people, I think you probably could. Well, you had the most sensible take of anyone. I really, pleasure to speak to you.